lets you see if you're going in the right route. If you want to make an archer type character, but you're heavily specialized in melee weaponry, you don't really have the option to be everything at once. From what it looks like to the video, having not played the game, so you really have to choose what you're going to do and try to unlock those abilities that you want to get as quick as you can.
Yeah, and it didn't look like it took too much effort to unlock the abilities. I know this has been apparently a reiteration of an original design. They originally had this design, I believe, switched it, and now they've switched back and announced it during Gamescom and this whole thing. And the community is kind of like in a dazzle about what do they think about it. And I know some people are thinking, oh, I got to sit here and grind shooting at somebody to unlock my skills. But I don't know if it's that really big of a deal. It didn't look like it took too long to unlock that skill. And I'm sure if you use the same weapon type, I'm going to guess that the weapon types maybe use the same skills, or maybe each weapon actually has individual skills, which is kind of interesting in itself. But it does, I agree, allow you to focus on your learning of your skills. So you focus there, okay, here's what this skill does, I learned it. Okay, now I got new skill, I'm going to learn it and how to combine it with my first skill. As opposed to, all right, here's 8 skills, go at it, go have fun, and sit there and wonder for the first day of your playing what each of your skills do, or have to read each skill over and over again. So it seems to be a lot more dynamic. Now, if you want to for a second, actually, if you will describe for us the actual skill acquisition system that occurred in Guild Wars when it came to elite skills. You want to describe that for us? Skill acquisition of elite skills.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was focusing on the chat. So basically, the elite skills. Honestly, I did not get a chance to really review on those. But if it's anything like the original skills, then that'd definitely be interesting. I know for a fact there is Hounds of Balthazar as humans, and you can actually unlock some elite skills. And as usual, you get one skill on your ability bar, and you cannot use any other ones. And you can actually have the option just to start with some of them. As you level up, you'll unlock them rather than going and get them. You might want to go ahead and describe for me personally as well, though, how that differs from Guild Wars 1 with other abilities.
Well, if you remember in Guild Wars 1, one of the things that a lot of people liked, and maybe a lot of people didn't like, was the whole skill capture, where you went out and you killed a boss that was using a skill, you used your skill capture, and you learned that skill, if you were allowed to. I don't think that exists here in Guild Wars 2. Did you find that fun and interesting in Guild Wars 1 where you actually went out and captured those elite skills, had to actually go out there and find the boss who was using it in order to obtain it?
That was actually one of those things that I really disliked about Guild Wars 1. You had to get a group, especially if the boss was really far out, and go and hunt down these abilities. Skill capture, for me, at times it could be entertaining, but when they released all those expansions and had so many different elite abilities, it just became a pain for me. But there were a lot of people who did enjoy that system, so maybe it's not something they should be looking to throw out right away, or maybe they could limit how many abilities are like that you would have to go and find and capture. Although it did especially suck when your boss didn't spawn after clearing an entire area or running to it. So
Yeah, I guess it was sort of a pain. It was kind of cool in the beginning, I guess, when there was only one. It was just Guild Wars, the original Prophecies, and you just went out, and that was when everyone was exploring everything, and you're going out and you're finding bosses, and you just took one with you, and nobody knew. But I guess at the end, it became a sort of grind to get your skills that you wanted. To go out there, you had to get a group, which just sounds bad. We're multiplayer games, and we're complaining about having to get a group to go out to go grab a skill, one skill. But there are multiple of them. I guess you can only have one at a time. But it was sort of interesting. It was nice and unique, but I guess it looks like they decided that it was not the most preferred method, and they're going to have a new audience with this game as well. So it may not be something they wanted to attempt in it, and they decided to throw it out and go with a new skill system. Especially with their whole new skill system being skills related to their weapons, it would have just probably would have been a headache. All right. So let's move on into the actual first dynamic event of the game. And I think this is awesome that the dynamic event in the game your first dynamic event actually occurs in your starting area. So let's look at that.
So if you remember the original Guild Wars, you may recall that Baradin is actually one of the big initial quest givers in the first Guild Wars game. In Guild Wars 2, he is now a ghost, cursed to haunt and torment the Char through his undead life. We've just been instructed to assist one of our primary Char heroes, Ritlock Brimstone, in taking the Duke down in his crypt. So we're going to go ahead and head over to the crypt. And we're about to go into what will be our first dynamic event. So one of the key things about dynamic events is we felt that dynamic events are best experienced as opposed to read about. The way you will encounter most dynamic events is you will just wander into areas where events are occurring, and then you will be notified in the upper right screen here that there's an event going on that you can participate in. So as you see, automatically we get a visual cue here that we are now entering a dynamic event to kill Baradin's ghost. The great thing about dynamic events is they are inherently social. There are a lot of times when you're on a quest and you encounter other players who may be on the same quest in an MMO, and you feel like you're competing with them for resources or kills. That never happens in a dynamic event. Dynamic events scale so that as more people participate in them, they become more interesting and difficult. We never want you to resent other players coming in and participating in your dynamic event. That is so counterintuitive to how it would actually work if you were in a fantasy world, and we think dynamic events do a great job of kind of adding that social glue into what it should be an inherently social experience. So what has happened now is Duke Baradin is now retreated and started possessing one of the statues in his crypt. And this has now become an elite event. You'll see on the right that there is a progress bar on how far we are with the Duke Baradin fight. What I want to point out here is that at this point you are not even level 2. You are still a first level character, and we are trying to go ahead and have you confronting interesting opponents, interesting bosses. You're not going out and killing rats, and having interesting fight dynamics. If you go ahead and look, the red circles on the floor that are dropping down there, that indicate where Baradin is having rock from the ceilings fall on the ground. If Elijah could move fast enough, he could actually have dodged and evaded out of those red circles and not taken damage. One of the other things that Baradin does here is this mass fear attack that sends everyone reeling back. And then lastly, I think he has a significant knockback. Okay. As you can see, there are other players in the event with us, and as I mentioned, as they enter the event, they cause the event to scale up in difficulty. You'll see that Elijah there used his dodge to try and get out of the way of some of the damage that was falling from the ceiling. One of the other interesting things we did here, because of the scope and size of the Duke Baradin fight, we actually do a little bit of camera tweaking and pull back so that you can get the full scope of the battle. All right. So it looks like we're almost done with the fight. We should be able to take him down momentarily. How are we doing there, Elijah? Is he a little harder than usual? Okay. Almost got him. All right.
Okay, so first off, level 2. He said it right there in front of us. Level 2 is your first dynamic event in that game. I mean, what do you think about that? Level 2.
I actually think he said even level 1. He said they were not even level 2 yet. What's funny when I first see that video was my first response was thinking dynamic events scale with more players. So it's going to be curious to see what first day release is going to be like when you have like 400 char or more fighting that boss. Like hopefully it doesn't just one shot massacre everybody, because this game is not instance as Guild Wars 1 was.
Yeah, it's not instant, so it will be a lot of people. And they did say their dynamic events scale. I think they said up to 100 people. They didn't say in this video, but before they said their dynamic events scale to 100 people, which has made me question if there is more than 100 people in the area. Has it just become too easy to defeat it? Maybe, I guess, or I don't know. But I mean, still, that was an epically huge battle at level 2. In most games at level 2, you have, or level 1 even, I guess that's what it is. At level 1 and 2, you are being sent out to collect berries or apples from the tree and catching the rabbit for the little girl. In Guild Wars 2, you're fighting a huge stone monster coming out of the wall. I'm weighing between collecting apples or flowers between fighting a huge stone monster. I think I'm gonna go for the huge stone monster. I feel much more epic, much more like a hero in the game, and not some fool's errand boy who stands there and screams for help and doesn't do anything.
I would have to agree with you. The boss fight definitely seems interesting, and for those like who are big lore lovers, yeah, you can see that it's Baradin. They mentioned in the video he was a previous quest giver. You talk to him all the time, trying to get stuff done, and his ghost is there now, haunting the Char for taking over the land. And for initially the ghost is there, and then he goes into the statue, possesses it, and you fight this epic boss with God knows how many other players.
Chibi Suke in chat asked, but what if my personal story involves being an errand boy? Chibi, if your personal story involves being an errand boy, you can be my errand boy and go grab me some health potions or something for the fight. All right, you can join me in it. I don't know if there's even health potions, but you can do that. You can be one of the people's errands boys around there and just stand there and collect experience in between. But it was pretty good. So, and we got to see more of the dodge mechanic there. I mean, he had the AOE attacks coming from the huge boss, the Baradin, I guess is what his name is, Baradin, and he could dodge them. If you don't dodge them, you hit. And if you saw, it was pretty cool. He dodged backwards and actually still got hit by some of them. He avoided some, but then got hit again. So, do you think that these huge dynamic events and even their dungeons with the dodge mechanic and everything is just going to create this huge new raiding experience and fighting experience that we haven't gotten to experience in many games other than maybe Vindictus, the new Dragon Nest, and possibly Terror, which is who knows when that's coming out. I mean, this is a new movement system. It's a whole new combat system when it comes to raiding or large boss battles. I mean, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, it's definitely something, as I said, I'm looking forward to. The dodge mechanics, my theory is always that agility is always going to win, because if you manage to avoid all the hits, then obviously you're taking no damage. And this game differs from